Kwe. Greetings. Kwe is spelled Kwe, Kwe, and it is an Algonquin language greeting. So Kwe greetings. I don't know of any indigenous channel that has an Algonquin greeting. So it just goes with my viewpoint that I don't know what's going on, why Algonquins are being sort of erased, even when in the conversation about Indians, American Indians. Now, these are the first Indians that the British meet. And as we live basically under British Vatican domination on the down low, it's the one Indian tribe that it's just not spoken. It's not very, they're mentioned. I'm not saying they're not mentioned. There's just not an extended conversation on this linguistic group. It's the largest one in the Americas. Indians, help me out here. Do you see the crux of the issue? The largest linguistic group. It's like it doesn't exist. Do you not see colonization in full effect? Yet, we have Indians talking, yapping. The big picture is that if you're going to let your largest linguistic group go to shit, what hope is there, really, for the smaller linguistic groups? And it's not I'm not trying to rank Indians, or put a value judgment. Every Indian is an Indian, point blank, period. But there is an issue that I just feel I guess I'm the one to talk about it. Just hit the books, right? Just start talking about it, right? Why kvetch? But yes, I can't. The minute you look up Algonquin, or the minute you look up Iroquois, typically even in the lightest search, you're going to find out that they were not getting along. Now, this is the biggest linguistic group having a beef with one of the smallest linguistic groups. Do the math. Do the math. It's looking, when I try to common sense it, it appears that even Indians have been programmed to not speak about the fact that the first Indians to even interface with our biggest, most insidious colonizer, Britain, is mysteriously a non-issue. Again, if you're going to minimize the largest linguistic group of Indians in the Americas and think that that's okay, there is no hope for the smaller linguistic groups. I mean, outside of a colonizer construct. Now, the colonizer is going to love up on you. The colonizers' doctrines tend to involve, just listen, tend to involve discounting first birthright holders, but to a lesser degree, the colonizer rhetoric, it also involves taking something that is small and like that's going to be the mighty thing now. I mean, it sounds good. It sounds like, hey, the small dog gets a go at it. But for the colonizer, and in a colonizer situation, it's not looking good. Because what the colonizer is doing is puppeting you small groups so that it can use you against the bigger dog. Okay, so again, it might be a welcome thing in a non-colonizer situation, but in a colonizer situation, the smaller groups or tribes or whatever are going to be given the most firearms. So their dominion or their domination is based on basically having superior firepower that your colonizer gave you. But what does that do to the Indian? It makes the Indian the little bitch of the colonizer, Iroquois Confederacy. Uh, yeah. So I'm just saying it plain. Don't mean to hurt nobody's feelings, but if we have any real desire for true Indian sovereignty on Indian land, we got to talk real. We got to talk real. And I will always see something wrong with not speaking about Algonquin, because that's your biggest linguistic group. And if all the little smaller linguistic groups are on board with a colonizer just completely erasing your fellow Indians' legacy, and you're okay with that, I'm telling you, it's coming down the pipeline for you too. It's coming down the pipeline for you too. Okay, it may take a little longer, but the colonizer is out to erase it. Well, he's erasing your biggest presence you have on the land, and you okay with that? You say, well, that's okay if we don't say nothing. We just going to talk about being Cherokee and we call it, what's that other one? Lenape. Well, Lenape, unfortunately, that is an Algonquin group, but they hardly represent Algonquins. This just, it's like you try to go one way with it, and you realize you can't go all the way that way. Lenape, from what I know of the FANA, the main spokesperson for FANA, the guy that I always see that's representing the Lenape Fana Indians, some association going on between those two. He is so indoctrinated that being an Algonquin for him it's a non-issue, because the man is truly, his whole mind. Now, when you see the brother, he looks educated. He looks like he knows what he's talking about. You will be fooled. You will be fooled. I was. So, I know from experience, but I don't even know the brother's name. Needless, because I'm not gonna, I'm not starting no personal shit. I'm really not. I'm using the examples that I know as examples, really. But he is an example of a whole sellout Algonquian, unfortunately. And that's why I don't count him when I talk about Algonquins waking up and Algonquins beginning to have a presence. But this brother, he gets on, he is studying to become an attorney. If that doesn't let your red flag go up, just that sentence alone, then you just not really grasping the level of blindness in a woke Indian. Brother, how are you going to work for the fucking corporation? How the fuck are you going to represent an Indian on the side of your fucking colonizer? That is their construct. That is a title of nobility. And this, you can't, you see this brother, he got his feather on, he got his big, well, he's must have some serious eyesight issues. I'm not one to talk about, I'm nearsighted, but the brother got the biggest, blackest Buddy Holly got glasses you see on a brother. So we got some eye issues, but you know what? That's just representative of the fact that he does not see what the fuck he has done or is in the process of doing. He's about to represent the colonizer to this whole Lenape, but they are obviously federally recognized. I clearly. So yeah, I'm going to speak on it. Yes, as an Indian, I'm going to speak on it because look, I ain't trying. I am not trying to go back into a deeper. Why will it be a deeper colonization when you do it as a fully awake Indian? It's going to be an even deeper colonization when you did it unknowingly. That's different. When you knowingly colonize yourself and your people, brother, you got to be talked about. So should he ever hear me, brother, I said what I said. You are seriously indoctrinated. You're an institution Indian, institution man. Homie was proud to say that he studied to become a lawyer. Oh my God. Oh my God. And arguing people down, talking about in his comment section, because I was one of the ones who had an interaction with him talking about, wait a minute, it says Indian not taxed. But you see, the corporation is they're going to qualify with that. See, they're going to define what that means in their favor. They're the one, look, Indians, you being the dominant race on this landmass, let's talk about it now. Let's stop acting like we don't know that we're the largest group, no matter how much they lie. Like I think it was Dane who said they still ain't give us the results to the last census. They ain't trying to give up them numbers, boo. And I put Indian. I did that. That was a political move. It was not to tie me into their system because that's the farthest thing that I from me, where I want to be. It was a political move because I want the motherfuckers to know that I know. That's why I put Indian on the census. My right, more, my deeper mind, and I admit sometimes I do stuff that I don't know, I should, what might have not been the best thing to do, but it was a political move I did. So yeah, I for the Indian, but at the same time, I'm calling, I know what an Indian is supposed to be. Unlike this Lenny Lenape leader, I don't know his name, so I ain't gonna try to say it. Not really interested in but in his comment section, we had a back and forth where he's basically saying you have to expatriate, and yes, you do. And there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, you would have to get out of your colonizer system. How else the hell are you going to get out? But he made it as if, oh my God, you're going to be stateless. You're going to do da da da. We don't know that we don't know. Now, the last video I did, we learned, and I learned, Indian not taxed is not a tax exemption. That's why it's in the Constitution. Tax exemption is not something that you put in a Constitution. Okay, so let me say that again. Tax exemption status is not something you put in a constitution. That is something that you elect to do when you go to pay taxes based on whatever loophole this corporation done made up for you. You're gonna pay in some other way. That's how I feel. You don't, well, from experience, we should know that we never get anything that is given to us. We end up paying it back, right? So anyway, moving right along. Again, the reason why they say Indian not taxed in the Constitution is because it is a status. It is set in, there's nothing going to change about that. It's not going to be at the whim of the colonizer whether you're going to be exempt or not. You are exempt by status. That's what they're not telling us, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they're not telling us, pardon. So we have a status that no one is addressing. So it's a sin of omission, right? It's just, let's just not talk about it. And when we do talk about it, we're going to redefine it under federal Indian. See, but federal Indian, that's also something that's not in the Constitution, something Congress created. You're dealing with the colonies, not the Indians, Congress. So if all of a sudden you're making federal Indian laws, you're doing something outside of the Constitution, right? Outside of your 19 enumerated functions. And I hope we get more familiar with the term 19 enumerated functions, because when you find out that they have over 300 now, your red flags should be waving pretty vigorously. How did they go from 19 enumerated functions that we gave them to 300, and we don't know shit about it? Okay. So again, arguing with this brother who's now becoming a lawyer, so now he's going to know how to really parlay this bullshit to an Indian and make it seem like it's legit. He gonna know now. He really going for top, ranking in the the foreign corporations ranks. So now he's gonna convince y'all Indians, you will not be Indians. If this is an example of your leader, why don't you just call yourself a nigga and be through with it? Call yourself colored, black, black. Don't disgrace your ancestors by actually using the tribe name or not. Don't do it, please. They are so far gone. This is the danger when Indians have lived for years under the colonizer framework and think that what the colonizer does applies to you as well. But he's a colonizer. This is something that came up on your land and took your land, and you following its protocols. You think you're supposed to be down with it? Why? Because he said so? So you better start listening to the ancestors, because obviously they're not speaking to you. And if they are saying that, they must be not the true ancestors of this land, man. They must be the colonizer bloodline coming through on the line. So yeah, going back and forth with this brother, and he's just giving me statutes and codes. At the time, I was not as aware as I am now, and I was still fighting the brother, because I knew by common sense it wasn't. How do you go telling us we have to pay tax? And he's saying you gotta pay tax. You gotta pay your tax. Dun, 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 dun. If you don't, you're gonna the public law this and the statute code that and the brother is lost, y'all. Lost. And he's one of those brothers that you just know he's the coolest dude in the room. He's got that air about him, but that's the colonizer air that he done picked up on. That's that vibe. And I don't usually call out people like I am right now, but this brother is so dangerous. He is so dangerous in terms of misleading the narrative, pulling you back deeper. Again, how is it deeper? Because now the colonizer knows his work is done. Once you get an Indian to talk about there is no other way but to pay your taxes, you won. You have won in the colonizer versus Indian ongoing battle. You won the war, baby. Once you got it, and now he wants to be one of you colonizers as an attorney. And I know he's not studying common law. But common law is tricky, y'all. I realize that's partly what I was going to show today. But I had a little bit of an issue. I'm just not going to get into it. It's a matter of wait a minute. I might be able to do it. I might be. Let me just see something. But basically, what Britain is doing is branding law of the land, and the brand, the name brand that they're branding it with is common law. So every time when we use the term common law, now y'all, I'm common sensing it really, because I couldn't figure out why is it being said that common law is something that the British invented when they're one of the youngest nations on earth. How did they invent common law where there was many when Tamari existed, decades and centuries before? So there was no such thing as common law before Britain arrived. That has got to be a joke. But then I figured it out. It's the term common law that they own. Apparently that term, it has to be copywritten or trade something. They got some kind of rights over that, the use of that term. And that's the only thing that makes this make sense. Common law is roughly referring to law of the land. What is law of the land? Law of the land would apply to indigenous people, right? In other words, way before there was anything called Britain, there was law of the land, not common law. They just renamed it common law. Long before Britain existed, law of the land was what Indians were doing. A linguistic group, this was their land, based on their forefathers being there forever. And this was their part of the land. That's law of the land in a nutshell. Where your people sprouted up as, either the first to settle that area of your different groups or whatever. But you know what? It goes beyond linguistic group. Let's just. I'm sorry. I'm minimizing it. Law of the land is a First Peoples law. In other words, the entire landmass. Who were the first people on that landmass? They are the law of the land. The law, and what that means is it's their land. They are the law of the land. They are going to have superior rights to any wealth that's in the land. That's what law of the land, what I'm breaking it down. Law of the land is who was first on the land, that's their land. In a nutshell, just cutting through, it's a basic, so that it couldn't have possibly been invented by Britain. Couldn't possibly. They were born into it, you could say, because that's how Britain is Britain. The law of the land, that is, Britain belongs to Brits, right? So it was there before they existed, or else they wouldn't have had it. You know what I'm saying? So no, they patented the word common law. That's what they did. Another way, if you can't do something or grab status by law of the land, then how you do it is by creating a new word for land, or any word anything that you're trying to pull a jurisdiction over. You have to come up with the word. And once everybody starts using the word, little do they know that that's money in your pocket, right? Like, didn't we find out that Jesse Jackson owns some kind of rights to African American or some shit? Okay, if it's not him, then what about, we have a newer one, fundamental Black American. Now we know for damn sure, most of us, I believe that Mr. We'll just say the first name, Tariq, Mr. Tariq, that's money in his pocket. That's how you grab jurisdiction legally. So it's a word spell game. You name it, you claim it. That is what the term, that's how the term common law came about. I'm convinced. I'm going to be very honest with you all. I did not even do the research on that. I know it. It's obvious. It's obvious. It's obvious. I know. How is it obvious? Again, Britain is way too new of a nation to have invented or come up with the concept of law of the land. There was land before there was a land called Britain. And that's where common law or law of the land began. If we're going to go all the way with it, we're going to say it began in America. America is the oldest civilization. We did the video on this, people, please. Let's not act like we didn't do the video on this. So where did the concept of law of land, where had it have to have begun? In the oldest civilization. And that is to be found in South America. And pardon so the many times that I called South America Brazil. Brother wasn't great in geography. I was not great in geography. So pardon the many times that I called South America Brazil. I thought the whole thing was Brazil, y'all. I admit it. I'm admitting what I know to be incorrect. Okay. I was incorrect. But so South America, okay. The name of the landmass is South America or South America, not Brazil. Brazil is a country in South America. But you see, I'm not gonna make an excuse. I got it wrong. Okay. It's just I think it has something to do with the fact that here in America, where every state is supposed to be a country, we're not doing it that way. Like it's said that it's that, but that's not how we speak of it. You know what I'm saying? So there's some kind of bait and switch going on in America. In Africa, we know that for the most part, we know that Nigeria is a country in Africa, but it's not typical for an American to say that Colorado is a country in America. It's not typical. We call it a state, right? So I think I just know that is what adds to the confusion, shall we say? Because and what's really going on is the corporation not recognizing each state as a country in reality. It's something we say, but in reality, that's not how. I don't see that that's how we're conducting. In other words, the United States corporation wants to have jurisdiction over all the countries in America. So it's not in actuality recognizing it. Okay, wait. I think, how's this working? I'm going out on a limb. I think they do it as a means to tax us as if we're international, but for some other purpose that we're not being seen as we're separate countries. Because I think okay. Let's try to work it out from what we know already. What we know already, or what I learned from Anna, is that every state right now is not a land soil jurisdiction, right?
So if they're not land soil, they can't be considered countries, right? They're all corporate fictions, right? So that, I believe, is how the United States has taken over each quote unquote country. Because as a state, it can have the what we know what the state nationals call the state of state uh jurisdiction, which is a federal jurisdiction, not a law of the land jurisdiction, but a commercial jurisdiction. It's a little hard to explain, but I'll try to say uh, each state as it exists today is a corporate fiction of the land soil state. So the land soil is being hijacked by the corporate fiction version of the state. So that is how the United States corporation is able to have jurisdiction over the states, because each state is a franchise of the United States that sits on DC. So DC has pirated each nation state into a fictitious commercial jurisdiction we call commerce, the commercial law. It's in a commerce C jurisdiction is what I'm saying. So a C jurisdiction is fiction. Land soil is based on actual land. Okay, if that makes it make a little more sense. In other words, the corporation insists on each country being a state because that is the setup that gives it jurisdiction. It can't be a country because then really the states wouldn't have jurisdiction over the country. But as a state, then it can pull rank as, you know, state of whatever, state of that's the corporate fiction. And as we know, every state in the United States fiction, corporate fiction, is a state of this, state of that, state of this, state of that. You know, state of Georgia, state of New York, state of Florida, state of Texas, you know. So whenever we hear something referred to, any of the states referred to as state of, that is the corporate fiction jurisdiction. In other words, in each of those states, you're going to have representatives of the Crown and the Vatican as your assembly people. They're not going to be United States citizens. United States citizens are the ones who owe those who are part of the corporation. So there has to be a distinction, right? You can't owe yourself, right? It wouldn't make sense. There would be no debt. So that is why I say every assembly that we have in each state is a representative of the colonizer, because why? United States citizens owe the colonizer in their world, which, as we should know by now, is a corporate fiction world. So that is why a man and woman who's just a regular United States citizen, you are the debtor. Everyone in your assembly represents your creditor. So they cannot represent you because, again, you don't owe yourself a debt. It wouldn't be a debt. So they are working on the behalf of your creditor. You, the United States civilian, the one who's not, you know, in the federal system or the state system, you are a debtor. When they talk about a national debt, it is not something that the folks in Congress owe. They're the ones that's racking it up. Hello. They're the ones who's creating the debt. So they can't be one and the same with you. They're expecting you to pay their debts. And the debt that is owed, in fact, is owed to the ones they work for. That would be agents of the crown, agents of the Vatican. Now, since the Pope denounced the doctrine of discovery, me, a plain old American Indian, I can speak this way because the Pope has denounced it. So it is now not considered protocol to operate under the doctrine of discovery, right? We can say that at least, right? That's what the Pope denounced, right? Okay, so we can talk plain. This is not against this terrorism. No, we're talking Constitution, and we're talking the original Constitution that talked about Indians not taxed as a status, not an exemption. As you know, when you go to fill out an exemption, you're not pulling up something from the Constitution, are you? You're given specific paperwork to get tax exempt. So why is the Constitution saying Indians are not taxed? Because it's not an exemption. It is a status of Indians. But if we have Indians like the Lenni Lenape dude, that's his biggest dream and aspiration as a quote unquote chief of some sort is to be an attorney. Are you fucking kidding? Talk about a study in what's confusion. Yeah. If any Indians are looking to learn law, I would suggest common law. And I'm talking about the oldest form that you could find of it. It would be in the realm of what Indians need to go by. Law of the land. And I should need to stop calling it common law because it does not belong to Britain unless we use their word for it. Then it belongs to them. We're looking for something that our colonizer did not create, okay? Because when we use what the colonizer created, then we are colonized, you see. So the Indians that I know of to be in that ballpark are people like Dane Calloway. If you ever watched Indigenous Education Channel, the young brother that has a panel with his lovely mother, Red Silver Fox, they are talking in terms of outside of the federal jurisdiction. Chief Colonado, if you hear a lot of his discussion, he is somewhere in the realm of an outside of the federal system conversation. Those are the ones that I know of that are most likely to get that Indians are not supposed to go by, I'm going to say it again, federal laws, federal codes, federal regulations, or state laws, state codes, state regulations. None of that would ever apply to a First Nation American copper-colored Indian. None of that applies to you. I don't know how it's really, it is what it is. There's no other way to say it. It does not apply to you unless you make it. And if you think that that's all there is. And then the next question would be, well, what do we go by? Baby, I done told you, you got to create it. It's based on law of the land. From there, you can just figure it out. So one thing I said was, and I was so happy to see Chief Morning Thunder, Sister Bethy, end her last video with a lovely shot of our linguistic map. Thank you, Sister Bethy. She's getting it. She got it there. That's the beginning and really the end of it. I think she did that. You know, I think that was just a way. It was just a perfect thing to end on. That's all I can say. After a conversation where, well, Chief Morning Thunder is recognizing, I think I've done a video about it, that our colonizers were Black, y'all. That's why I have no time for racism. I have no time. I have very little energy for it. You cannot go the racist route when you find out that your colonizer was a whole Black king. And that's what Sister Bethy has been talking about lately, and it's excellent. Now ironic thing is happening now, because during her segment, it came up, Philly Dog, he goes by the name Philly Dog, was bringing up that they're saying that we enslaved ourselves. Now, I don't like the sound of it. I don't like how they're going to put a spin on it. But the fact remains, it was the same race. The ones who enslaved us were the same race as us. You've got to get real with it, y'all. A lot of y'all have not heard this before. I understand. I'm here to tell you it is facts. For some reason, even our Boulay brothers like Horace Butler, Lee Cummings, who else? I thought there was another. No, John Mackey wouldn't be considered. That John Mackey, he's from a whole different time frame. John Mackey, who wrote the memoirs of John Mackey, he told you what race the royals were, the court of King James. He was a spy for the court of King James. And he told us the race of this court. What is a court? It is a family of the kings and the queens. That's what a court is. So if your court is being described as tawny, sanguine, etc., all these different words for Black, all the shades of Black, then you know that your colonizer was a whole Black person. So then the question is, why are they doing this to us, HERU? I told you already. Y'all just don't believe me. A lot of people, they don't understand. They see my name, HERU. They jump to the conclusion that I am a Hotep brother. No, not exactly. And they say, what does that have to do with being an Indian? It has everything to do with being an Indian. If I'm telling you that the first civilization sprang up in South America, it's American. And then I'm telling you that that's where the first Egypt was, But if you don't believe me, then you'll just never believe me, right? If you refuse to hear that, then you'll never understand my connection. So again, I finally got real with myself and had to stop playing and stop with my program. My program keeps saying that Egypt is in Africa. But what the ancestors are showing me is that no, it wasn't. That's what they're showing me, because my mind is open. They can't show it to other Indians that refuse. You know? So once I got real where the real Egypt was, now we didn't call it Egypt. It was called Tameri. I have a book on the way. Had to reorder it. Somehow they sent my book to another address. It's like, wow. Now this is the book I'm going to show you what America was called. Now the book I'm going to tell you right now, they called it Tamarik. Tamarik. So they have different versions of the word Tameri. But I ordered the book because I said, I'm going to show the people the name of ancient America. Now, if you want to go with legend and what do we call oral traditions, I guess that's why a lot of our Indians are calling it Turtle Island. That is great. That is wonderful. But it has no use for me, someone who is looking to see who were we in history's version of us, not in our little mother's tale, you know, because that I'm not saying that we weren't Turtle Island. I'm just saying that was something that we called ourselves in-house. But on the world stage is where we need to figure out shit. Okay, that's how we're gonna know where they put us, or how they, you know, what did they refer to us. Now, I don't know of being called Turtle Island. I guess that must be maybe the next level. I'm still at the level of trying to see where history began. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not talking about necessarily a creation story. I'm talking about something that occurred in history. So that's why Tameri is much more useful to me, because it makes sense in the world stage. But I guess, you know, it's an odd mix, because we have our Indians who want to go with, you know, the word of mouth, I guess I would call it, or the oral tradition. I'm hoping there's an oral tradition, but I haven't seen any validation that it was called Turtle Island. I don't know, you know, where that is coming from. It maybe I just haven't looked enough, but that's what people are saying. They're saying we will call Turtle Island by who? Us. Okay. Well, that is a different conversation. I think they're trying to refer to before we had a dynasty. See, I need to know the actual goalpost. I have to see the ones that were used on a more international, shall we say, level, so I can get an idea of where we were. You know what I'm saying? If we go into the land before time, that's not going to help me to figure out the world situation. It's going to be a whole different bubble. First of all, I don't know how we would be called an island when we are hella large, and we are actually two continents. Well, you know, with South America, are they calling that a continent? Whatever they're calling that. So would it have, to me, I would say, would it be Turtle Islands with an S, perhaps? Or Turtle Islands? I could gravitate. See, I don't gravitate to Turtle Island because it's not making sense to me. It's like, okay, if that's what we call ourselves, then we didn't know what we were on. because that was before we knew the extent of our landmass. So I don't see an island. I see South America and North America, and they are far from being islands. These are continents. An island is a small. So that's the problem I have with Turtle Island. I didn't know we was going to go there today, but I'm just trying to be very real with you. I'm not criticizing people. I'm just saying when I hear it, it doesn't ring right to me at all. It just doesn't. It's talking about a time that I don't know we have enough validation for. If people are going to say, well, that's what the ancestors told me. Okay, well, that's not what they told me. So I understand we have, we had several ancestors, right? So I didn't get the ones that knew of a Turtle Island yet. They didn't come to me yet. Maybe they still down up the pipeline. I'm just trying to explain my angle, okay? And I really think that I have a valid angle. I'm going to be very real with you. I have to say I do. If Indians don't get, if they're telling me that the ancestors are talking to them, yet the ancestors have you trying to be part of the colonization or being under colonizer rule, I have to question what ancestors are. See, the ancestors are telling me, baby, you don't belong in this jurisdiction. That's what they're making that clear to me. And I'm not bragging. I'm just saying, I don't know what it is. I think I work in a law firm, I'm not trying to put my law firm on blast. They have nothing to do with me coming into this knowledge. So I'm not going to say that they taught me this. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that they're pushing some narrative that I'm pushing. No, I'm just saying I work in a law atmosphere. So I have a clue about jurisdiction. No, I am not an attorney. You don't have to be when you're doing a lot of work for them. Okay, let me be clear. I work with a research team, so they are doing the bulk of the research, but we are a very strong backup for our research team, I have to say. And we've had people tell our staff that what we're doing is beyond what a librarian does, So that's me referring to my team, not myself, but the team I work with. I'm not going to take all their credit, but I'm just saying my team is doing extracurricular librarian work. So it forces me to I back them up. Me and my team, we back them up, at one point we will call circulation. Okay. Yeah, I know y'all say that circulation don't do nothing. Yeah, you're right. They don't, but we do. That's why they say that we're doing a little more than what a library or a librarian does. And it's gotten only more as time goes by. Like in the beginning, it was, strictly more administrative, dealing with, getting them books shelved and cataloged and all that. But little by little, it's like, oh no, we got you doing news searches and stuff. That's research. It's down low research. Okay, now it's not the height of research, but it is a level of research. And so, what I was saying is they are renaming us because the term circulation is really, it's not what we're doing at this point, so I think the library world, they're trying to phase out circulation because, well, I think they're trying to phase out books, so circulation involves a physical library very often. So if you don't, if they're trying to phase out books, and watch out when that happens, y'all. We see a lot of things that are happening. It really, this is my take on it. It's just the corporation trying to cover the tracks, okay? It's very akin to Obama removing the term Negro from the historical record. How dare you, African? Y'all wonder why I have a problem with African. Look, we're not going to go all the way there, but I'm telling you right now, Africa has not been a very good influence in this. They have not been a very a good look for our people. When you have an African, now he's supposed to be our great hope, right? But he's taking our one of the key words. He was supposed to be our great hope, and he's African. Let that sit with you, please, because I think I get a lot of flack on the down low. You could feel the energy. You know, you feel a little bit of the he's doing too much with Africa. He hates he hates himself. No, I don't hate myself. No, don't get that twisted. No. Oh no, that ain't it. That ain't it. But let me say it again. We had a quote unquote black president that we all had very high hopes for, including myself. At the time, I didn't know. I know much better now. But let that sit with you. What did this very African man do for you besides give you the whole, what do they call it? Charismatic look. That's all he did. Yes, he looked good. He talked very well. Baby, we need more than that. See, the sweet talkers are the ones that you got to watch out for. Okay? And I'm telling you, when you come to me talking about how you going to diss Africa, they're your brothers, I'm going to show you a very African Obama. And who do you think he was working for? Who do you think he was working for? I just throw that out to the colored people in the house. What did he do for you? And then when you add the fact that he's straight up from Africa, one of the smartest men from Africa, I might add, in the colonizer schools, one of very highly educated, right? Do you see the level that we're dealing with? So that's another question. Who are the bougie Negroes? What do they look like? The ones who ain't working for you, what do they look like? They suited down, right? They got the, you know, someone might have some little wave in their hair, or got that. Obama's, the funny thing was they thought they had as good with Obama, and they did, but there's something about Obama's lips that I don't mean to, I don't have the brightest, my lips ain't the lightest either. But Obama being this, he had a complexion, I feel, that should have told us. Something about the lips. I can't, look, I don't mean to diss him. I'm just saying, you know, I'm just trying to be very raw and real in what I saw. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that I'm picking at the man. He's again, he's a good looking man. I'm just saying something about the colorization. I mean, it could be that he's a smoker. Okay, there's just something that was, and it just like there was somewhere there was a clue that he's not one of you. Okay, I don't know. You know, so I feel like the answers will try to say, look, there's something right. But I'm gonna have to call this Ratchet Saturday. I'm gonna get over here bugging out today, right? But not really. I am serious. I am serious. And Obama, he might represent the highest level African that came here to call himself representing Americans, or to look like he was representing America. Again, that's Africa's best coming here to deal with us, right? His father's African, y'all. That's a recipe for colonization. When the father is African and the mother was European, that's a recipe for colonization, y'all. I mean, it does happen with indigenous women when they're used to create offspring that the daddy can claim while he killed the mother or some shit, and then raised a child to come up against his own people. or half of his bloodline, shall we say. The interesting thing about even us Indians who may have, a patriarchy as our paternal line, that we, in other words, anyone who was classified as colored, Negro, Black, this is your fight, even if your bloodline is half, because you bear the label of the colonizer, the mark of the colonizer as a colored Black Negro, right? So you've already been, no matter, you've already been handpicked for disenfranchisement by that, with that classification. So getting a little off topic, but I just want to say that Obama represents Africa, man. He represents how Africans interface with Americans. They do it hand in hand with the Europeans that they sent here. It's not hand in hand with necessarily us Indians. He's all up in the framework of the colonizer, number one, so he's coming in on the colonizer ship. And then it looks good for us and we get all happy, but he's a product of the colonizer. And this is the best that it gives us. And what has it done? Did it change? Did he come here and tell us that we were the Indians? Huh? That might be a better question. So did an African come here and help you to discover that you are the sovereign of this land? Did Obama do that? No. So Africa's influence on America is basically continuing colonization. Any Pan-Africans got anything to say about that in your ambition for Africa? Can you explain why Africa's best didn't do much for you, although you are bowing down, bending over, doing the most to be African? It's never about the civilians of Africa who are struggling under their oppression, but their oppression is of the Obama ilk in terms of their higher officials. What are they? What's going on? At least in America, we can say, it don't look like us oppressing us, at least, although it is. At least it don't look like it. You got the Congress is mighty white. Mighty, mighty, mighty. But in Africa, all their leaders look like them. So it's never the little man in Africa when we're talking Africa. Yes, it sounds like it is. And yes, I refer to them sometimes. It's only because I refer to it in jest because I know it's a look that is a political ploy. When you see the swollen bellies, that is a political ploy propaganda. Okay. That's all I'm saying. Now, it could be very, I'm not saying it's not the reality, but the fact that you don't show, you hardly see the quote unquote more shall we say developed Africa, the whole look of Africa is the poverty look, I call it. So that's what is being promoted. And then Africans, again, they get on their YouTube and they're going to talk about, y'all think we this and y'all think we that. Well, you got some discussing to do with your government, because as far as I'm concerned, that's the look that they want. So don't get mad at me for throwing that look back at you. I ain't the one putting it out there. I ain't the one putting it out there. So you come out with your videos talking about, you think we in Africa, you think we live in tree houses and in the tree and swing. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Why? Because that's all they show of you. So who are you mad at? Who are you trying to prove something you think? Who are you talking to? Yes, I think. You damn right I do. And I think that you guys are rocking the poverty look. And even if you have poverty, it's not it's not the entire look of your country, then who is doing that? It ain't me. And don't get mad at me for talking on it. That's how I feel. You know, there's a young lady on YouTube. She's a model. And I've, been made aware of her videos by a good friend. And you watch her videos and it's like, I wonder, you just wonder who are you talking to? I hope it's to your government, because those are the ones that are promoting you looking the poverty look. And but then again, you got to go further, because then you got to pull up those statistics in the surveys I talk to you about. I looked them up myself. They say Africa. Now, Africa is big, right? They say it's they say it's the biggest continent on earth. So if they're the poorest and the biggest and the poorest, according to surveys, now these are several different surveys, y'all. This is not just one. Several surveys I looked at, most of them had Africa, like several countries in Africa are said to be of the poorest on earth. Okay. So it's not just what they're showing us visually, but they also are showing us statistics and comparing them with other nations on the earth. So it led me to wonder that how can they exist this long, this poor? Wouldn't they have died off by now or something? I mean, you look at it and then juxtaposed to them having 54 seats in the United Nations. So you begin to wonder, you have a whole representation on an international scene. So what does that mean? You're buddying up with all the other nations of the world. Not America, of course. America is in, but it's not American Indian. America is, they fall in the United Nations in the Western European region. Our region, the region that I should say the United States, the region that the United States falls in the United Nations is Western European region. So our colonizer is showing us, I represent you, it's true. Yo Negro ass, I'm representing you. So we're not represented in the United Nations if we're coming in under Western European. Why is that? Because Europe is the one that's running this show. And Indians are saying that we're supposed to fall up under that. The Indians out there that say we should be federally recognized, or unfortunately, even state recognition. I did try to do the breakdown of that. I didn't know, but I found out. And it's not that hard to find out if you really want to know. So a state recognized tribe is no better than a federal recognized tribe. It was a shock to me. But I did the math, and what I have Anna telling me, and I tried to, help people to hear what the lady is saying, because it will lead you to a better sense of what sovereignty actually is outside of the federal definition of sovereignty, or their view of what sovereignty is. Their view of sovereignty is do what I say and you'll be sovereign. That's not real sovereignty. Sovereignty is me doing what I say. That's what sovereignty is. As an American Indian or an American Indian group, doing what they want on their land without any restrictions by anybody. Why? Because it's our land. Now, the ironic thing in Africa is that the people who do have land, they are the boss of that land. It might not be rich, but from what I see and from what I know, a friend of mine visits Africa regularly. The person that he visits, their land, they can grow shit and sell shit. It's they don't have those restrictions. Like in America, you're going to get all kind of restrictions because you're under colonization. They can't tell you how to make money on your land. But see, if our Indians don't wake up, that's exactly what they're going to be in. Somebody that's telling you what you cannot and cannot do to make money on your land. They're rich as fuck on your land. Why can't you get rich from your own resources? Because you keep thinking that we're supposed to be under a state or a federal jurisdiction, and they will kick your ass every time. If they give you a benefit or a privilege, it's not permanent. I know people, I feel like Indians put their finger in the air and just la 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 la. The code said, statute 101 that said, yeah, well, that's why you are still a slave, because you think statute so and so applies to you. And all HERU is telling you is that it doesn't. It does not. I don't know. Indians feel like you talking like they're so indoctrinated that when they hear that, it's like they can't conceive of it. But see, you have to conceive of freedom before you can actually be free. Now, if you can't conceive that you're not under state or federal laws, and you insist that, but there's no other law. Yeah, because they're not telling you about the law of the land. That's why you feel, and it seems like, again, in Indians, that's why you can't get deported. That's another clue. Where they're going to deport you to. So what does that mean? You have law of the land. You're of the land. The fact that there's no place to deport you, because this is your homeland and this is the land of your forefathers, that should tell you, then what laws do you stand on? If they can't deport your ass, what is your footing that they don't have the power to deport you? Your footing is law of the land. The corporation does not talk about the real law of the land because they're a colonizer. They're not, basically, it's almost like they're not allowed to. Technically, because the doctrine of discovery was denounced, we should be singing like birds, but still, we got some still singing the tune of the colonizer, actually becoming a whole lawyer. Oh, ooh. Another part of Sister Bethy's video, if I may comment, is that she spoke on how the federal tribes are suffering. That she roughly spoke. And see, this is what I'm trying to get at. It's not, your golden ticket is not federal
but it's also not state. They're one and the same. I don't know how that's not coming through. They're the same. The state as it is set up now is not by the people. Again, they're representing agents of the feds, of the corporation. Uh, an example, I'm going to try to use this example. When we had the Continental Congress, where the South walked out, use that as a model of what happens to everyone that doesn't go with what the corporation proper would like. So let's roughly hash that out. How did that go down from what we know, from what I know? And feel free to comment, So we have a meeting, right? Two factions of Americans. One is more colonizer oriented, and the other one is like, we're not sure we want to be part of this, but let's try it out. So they have a Continental Congress where the South and the North states are going to see if they can do business. How did that work out for the South? Were they respected as sovereigns who are choosing, no, thank you, we will keep our land? Or did they get sunned by the North? So Indians who are trying to come into the federal system, either with the state or the Fed, think of the South and what happened to them. First of all, their sovereignty was not recognized. They thought that they could just walk out and be through with it. What the North did was reincorporate without the South. And then they used their force against the South. So in other words, oh no, baby, you ain't going nowhere. There was an Ike and Tina situation. God rest her soul. I'm not making fun of Tina. I had so much respect for Tina. So much. But she broke out of that shit, didn't she? Not so with the South. The South got occupied. It was the South where the Ku Klux Klan was really popping. What happens when you decide to stand on your sovereignty in the midst of a colonizing force? They don't recognize that shit. They say, no, I'm using you, and you're going to give me everything you have. I didn't become your colonizer so I could just rule up in the North. I'm going to have your fields, your land, all of that. You say, oh, you think you're not going to be part of this? Okay, tell it to the Ku Klux Klan. If we really think about it, the Jim Crow shit, that's what happens when you refuse to fall in line with your colonizers, what they trying to do up in here, which is own you. So again, what did the North do? They surrounded the borders of the South. And a lot of people, I've never heard anybody talk about it. I saw that with my own eyes, and I will never forget it because it shocked me. I thought I never heard this. I've never heard that the borders, the coastline of the South was all surrounded. They were surrounded by the military of the North. It had to be because they were not trying to be part of the Union. They wanted their land. They didn't want to give up their livelihood. They didn't, and now that makes me very proud of my ancestors. I mean, the way history is taught, we're supposed to look at the South as if they were just, excuse me, all they was about was slavery. No, they weren't. That was their land. That was Indians owning that land. So they try to make it, why do you think the Ku Klux Klan was so big? If they were white down there, then the Ku Klux Klan wouldn't have,
been able to pull that shit off that they was pulling, because they wouldn't have did that to white people. They did that to Indians, y'all. So what am I saying? They're trying not to recognize your law of the land Indian not tax status, although it's right there in the Constitution. So again, what Lincoln did was create a new entity without the South called the United States, not the United States of America. This is what I learned from Anna, So he reincorporated it, said that they went bankrupt. I guess they figured without the South, we as good as bankrupt. And so that was their excuse to create a new United States. And how did they use that United States? What was the end result? We said it before, we'll just say it again. When they came to the South, the New Deal was, you better incorporate the 14th Amendment or else. The last thing the South would have wanted was a 14th Amendment to make them subject to the corporation's debts. They're trying to hold on to their land. All the North is thinking about is how they can't wait to foreclose on that shit when you can't pay something. That's the whole point of becoming a debtor. The whole point of the 14th Amendment is that when they rack up a debt that is unbelievable, that you can't even say the numbers because it's so high, and they didn't invent the word for that. What's after a trillion, or what's after a zillion, or whatever. So when they rack up a debt like that, in a corporate situation, there's no possible way for you to even think of yourself as free. You owe far too much. You'll be free after you pay this debt. And if this debt is for generations to come, the idea is you will never be free. So this is what Indians are aligning themselves with, that kind of jurisdiction, when they want to be under the state or under the federal system. How the state and federal deal with sovereigns is that they create a debt that you just cannot deny. And that's what the 14th Amendment says. The national debt shall not be questioned. Why would we, the people, or even we, the Indians, why would we set ourselves up in a situation like that? That's given a corporation carte blanche. First of all, they went on a spending spree because they gave themselves enumerated functions that were not part of their enumerated functions. We gave them 19. They have, as of today, over 300. All of that cost, Anna explains it. That's what we owe. If they're giving us a service that we didn't ask for, but we have to pay, and we cannot question the debt, that's a recipe for owing for the rest of your life and all of your generations to come. And who's gonna get all of that? Hi, Britton, how you doing? I bet y'all doing real good. But you know why? It's not even the Brits themselves, right? If you get what I'm saying. It's never the little people. How you doing, Popity Pope, Pop Pop? How you doing, Pop Pop? You ain't my Pop Pop, but somebody insists on making you their Pop Pop. But the man denounced the doctrine of discovery. He did what he had to do to cover his ass, man. It's called cover your ass, right? But if we don't stand up and insist on our land back after the doctrine of discovery, no, we're not buying land. Indians don't buy land on their land. So I don't understand. See, now these are well-meaning Indians on YouTube. But when I hear something like that, they're saying, well, we have to buy it back because that's the setup. But the setup is colonization. We don't go by colonizers' rules or laws or anything. If he says we have to buy our land back, we have to say, no, you give. Look, here's the thing. We are pretty much a lot of our, especially those Pan-African, from what I understand. Well, I don't know who it is. Right now, it's a toss-up. But there's a lot of people saying something about, uh, okay, we should not get reparations as African slaves because we weren't African slaves, right? But however, we are owed something when you have taken away my land, and we're owed our land and our resources, not some kind of uh let's think about it basis. No, you give it back. What did even the farmers in Africa got their shit back, right? So if we in America think that the answer is we buy our land back, you're missing the point, guys. It's bad enough that you're saying that though we shouldn't get reparations. It makes sense, but again, something has to give, and it's something. In other words, we're not going to pay for it. Okay, you can say that we shouldn't get reparations, but I don't think we should pay for what is owed us either. But you say, well, this is the only way. It's not the only way unless you can make it in your mind that's the only way. The doctrine of discovery was denounced, y'all. I don't know if we have to get it in writing. I did think about that. Did he do that with his mouth? Did he put pen to paper? As far as I know, it's official. He said it, and we all heard it, that it's a declaration of sorts. So if he can be held to that, if he's held to it. So in other words, we have a right to our land back based on the denunciation of the doctrine of discovery alone. That is an argument right there. And what does it mean? It means Algonquin territory becomes Algonquin territory once again. And if you're Algonquin and if you're an Indian, you don't pay shit on that landmass that you're on. You don't owe anything. Your house is yours. You're not in the federal system, so you're Indian, not taxed. So, but then the idea is, well, what am I owed? What was taken from me? My livelihood, right? So what is owed me? My livelihood, right? Anything that would make you independent was basically taken. That is what is owed to the Indians. If Indians having a hard time figuring out, well, what we're supposed to get your land back and the rights to your land, the right to do to have trade independent of a federal system. We don't look. They said that we agreed with the Constitution that they would regulate commerce, right? But clearly, faith has been broken. You didn't just regulate commerce, you reclassified me. You created a whole different set of civil rights for me. You have paper genocided me. So how am I asking you to continue regulating my commerce for me? Faith is gone. So there we have an argument to say, no, you're not regulating commerce for the Indians. No. That's not possible. It's a bad faith deal. And see, in their world, if there's bad faith, you can't contract. That's like common sense even in the contract world, is what I'm saying. So, and then we got to define, what was this regulation about? How are you regulating? What is that exactly? See, it was left, in my humble opinion, it was left too open. And that's how I think when it comes to the colonizer, they would agree to, for a short time, they would agree to the Constitution, but I think wording was left where it wasn't specific enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, regulate commerce. What does that mean? And so when you let the colonizer define what that means, well, you're going to get fucked, right? That's just, if it's not specified in the Constitution, what does regulation, what does it mean? Dollars and cents wise, what is that looking like? So then it's left open. And what is left open is going to be that's going to be what uh, allows for a corporation to basically take over your entire show through the little openings that they were able to redefine or uh you know interpret the way they want to interpret it. So what does it mean? What is this all saying? What is this all saying? It's saying, Indians, it's about time to cut ties with the corporation. With this, again, I'm gonna say it because I don't think we're grasping how important the denunciation of the doctrine of discovery is to our cause. Now, yes, they did show the Pope dancing with the Mongolians, and that's supposed to mean, oh, he did. No, no, no. We know that that part is, see, that's still pushing a narrative, because the idea is those Mongolians don't really have the same level of right. They are corporate creation entirely. We were brought into a corporate creation, but we were something before. That's why that's why part of the reason why we can't be deported. We were here before, uh, you know, we had a standing prior to the corporation. Everything else here is only post corporation. Native American, that's post corporation. American Indian is pre corporation. So the corporation uses its doppelganger, dances with the doppelganger, and it looks like, he done made it right with the Indians. No, he made it right with the Native Americans, but he created the Native Americans in essence, right? It's part of the corporation. They're a corporate creation. American Indians are not a corporate creation. We were just tricked into being and taking on that fiction, that straw man. So I did a lot of talking. Maybe I won't actually do slides because I actually do have to get ready to leave. And this is already at an hour and a half. That's good. I'm trying to keep it an hour and a half to leave for the most part. So this is just like a little bit of a what do we call it? A little bit of a lecture, I guess. But yes, upcoming is, well, we talked about what we want to look at. I think I have to revisit American Indians and the Constitution. I only read the first part of it, but I do think there's something toward the bottom that, a revisit is worth it. I'm gonna sign off for now. I'm sorry I didn't get to my slides. I'm too busy running my mouth. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We over the weekend I hope to be back and do some slides. Till then, peace, health, wealth, love, your land back, your identity back, all the great things. Till next time. Stay highly favored.